You truly need to prepare. They're saying the quiet part out loud. In today's video, I'm going to show you our Treasury Secretary talking about a two-tier economy. When the feds print money, the wealthy buy assets. It's about to get wild. I'm going to show you a video we've seen already on this channel about the Federal Reserve. They're not federal, nor are they reserve. I'm going to show you the facts, figures, numbers, logic about consumer credit, American savings. And I'm also going to show you what the Treasury Secretary said. Remember what I told you? There's just an interest symbol. That's it. You're paying it or you're earning it. So your job over the next 3 years as a head of household is to understand, number one, how inflation works. Number two is when they lower interest rates, how the devalue of your currency affects your family's future. And then get into your zone of competency and understand what assets are going to beat inflation and preserve the purchasing power of your family's hard-earned money, because you're just getting paid in debt. So I'm going to give you the facts, figures, numbers, logic on the back of every video. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. So let's dive right in. So the first video that we are going to watch is a video that was posted by the General. This was one that was posted a while ago. We actually showed this, but I want to re-show this to you guys. This is the Federal Reserve. It's a scam. I want you to watch this and pay attention to the way the Federal Reserve is designed. And then I'm going to show you now, after 1913 to 2025, the dollar's collapsed 96 to 97%. I'm going to show you the reality of where consumers are at debt-wise, our savings accounts, and I'm going to show you what the feds are actually doing behind the scenes, which is quantitative easing, which is now going to devalue your currency, and Trump is going to bring us into Reaganomics on steroids, and your job is to be on the right side of the wealth transfer.
Jekyll Island, November 1910. 7 bankers meeting in secret to create America's central bank. We just can't call it that.
The 1907 panic nearly destroyed us. Banks failed, fortunes vanished.
We want to control America's money supply, create booms, trigger busts, and profit from both. And how will we do that?
We'll create money from nothing, loan it to the government, and charge interest. Legal counterfeiting, my friends.
But there's a cost. Every dollar we print steals value from existing dollars. It's a hidden tax that flows directly to us.
And it gets worse. If we ever get off the gold standard, governments can print money for wars.
1973.
Endless wars become possible and profitable. Since Americans hate central banks, we'll call it the Federal Reserve. Sounds governmental, doesn't it? It's not.
The president will appoint board members, but we'll pick who he appoints. We'll have 12 regional banks. Looks decentralized, democratic even. But New York banks control them all. That's us.
You're probably wondering how we're going to get this through Congress.
December 23rd, 1913. Most of Congress home for Christmas. Perfect timing for passing unpopular legislation. I'll publicly oppose our own bill in Congress. They'll pass it thinking they beat Wall Street. We'll fund university chairs, write the textbooks. They'll teach our system as economic science. Beautiful. Every American born after this will inherit debt on money we created from nothing. Generational servitude. The Federal Reserve. Not federal, no reserves. But everyone will think it's their government protecting them.
Good afternoon.
Okay. That's reality. So how do we make sure that this is reality, what was just stated? Here you go, guys. This is just from 2000 to 2025. This is the consumer credit cards. Credit cards. We're over $1 trillion in credit card debt. Remember what he said at the end? Servitude. Debt servitude. You go to school, you get a job, you get a 401k that you can't touch until you retire. Every 35 years, at 2 to 3% inflation, you lose about half of the purchasing power of your dollar. So you're in a job for 40 years, you've lost half of your purchasing power of your dollar. You have to hold it in a 401k, and then you get taxed on the back end, and now your dollar is worth less as they invest in assets that grow over time, as they beat inflation. You have to, I don't care what you invest in, you have to learn to beat inflation. Here is the median bank accounts by age in America. Under 35,000, under 35, 5,400. 35 to 44, $7,500. 45 to 54, $8,700. 55 to 64, $8,000. This includes checking, savings, money market, brokerage cash accounts, and prepaid debit cards. 65 to 74, 13,000, and 75 and older. Look how it goes down. It should not be going down. That is the robbing of the purchasing power. This is a wake-up call to Americans. The American dream became the American nightmare when the Federal Reserve was created. The American dream became the American nightmare when they took us off the gold standard. And we weren't taught microeconomics, and we weren't taught this two-tier system. Pay attention. This is your Treasury Secretary saying the quiet part out loud, giving you the hint on where you need to position yourself.
The Fed began what we call QE, or large-scale asset purchases. They went in the market, started buying long bonds, and the theory of the case there is you create liquidity, you take safe assets out of the market, long-duration safe assets, and then the people who receive that money would buy more risky assets. Ben Bernanke famously said, when he was asked what's the purpose of QE, he told everyone, go buy equities. Well, not everyone could buy equities. So we ended up with like this two-tier economy where either you were an asset holder or you weren't. And the Fed definitely kept QE going for too long. And I called the Fed the engine of inequality. And someone said to me, well, do you believe that the Fed is responsible for economic equality in the system? And I said, absolutely not. That is not one of their mandates, but they shouldn't be exacerbating it.
Okay, so what are the Feds about to do? Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think, I mean, he can say that, right? He's pointing it out, but do you think the financial literacy of Americans has changed? They can give you stimulus checks all day. They can put money in your bank account, right? We need financial literacy. We need to teach kids how to look at balance sheets. We need to teach adults how to understand inflation. We need to help people understand the H41 report on the Fed. This is what's happening right here. Remember when I showed you guys this on, what's today? Wednesday, on Monday? Remember when we saw the 7,000? This is now the December report updated. They are starting to, remember it was negative? This is cash and currency in circulation. They're pumping liquidity into the banks now. Look how much it jumped from December 17th to December 25. And then we'll look at this again when it updates next week for January 1st. Okay. The reverse repos, okay, they're going negative. The money is pumping back into the economy. This is QE, guys. This has a lag to it, a lag effect. So as we go into Q1, they're going to be printing a ton of money in 2026. They're going to lower interest. But remember what he said, it's a tier 2 economy. Okay, a tier 2 economy. This is really, really, really important. What he means by that is there's people paying interest and there's people earning it. There's no middle ground. Okay, so we have to really rewire our brain. Okay, remember, you get out of school, go get a credit card, go get an auto loan, go get a home mortgage. One of the greatest psyops is kicking your kids out at 18 years old because they can get a home or a rent. They can go get a credit card. They can go to get a car loan. The family should stick together as long as possible until the family wealth is built, and then start to spread out your seed and then help your kids build an ecosystem. My daughter's 21. I said, live with me as long as you can. She's an investor. She's building her own wealth. She's required to invest a certain amount of her income every single month. She's required to learn financial literacy. My son already understands assets and liabilities because they're going to be taking on the wealth as we pass this down. So I don't care what you invest in, but I do care that you understand how to transmute your income that you work very hard every single day away from your family, and you get paid in someone else's debt because of what the Federal Reserve created. A monetary enslavement system. It's not the American dream, it's the American nightmare. I'm proud to be an American. I love being an American. I built 6 companies in America. I can speak like this. I can talk on my social media. I am unbelievably proud to be an American. But I'm not proud that I came from the banking system and we buried people in debt. I'm not proud about that. That's why I left the banking system. And I'm not proud that they think giving us stimulus checks is going to help humanity. We need to change the education system and teach our kids what money is. We need to teach our kids that credit cards are not good. We need to teach our kids that if you're going to use leverage, it needs to be on something that either buys cash flow or buys an asset. He said there's a two-tier economy, and you think that that's going to get fixed in the next 3 years in the presidency with Trump? You think that's all of a sudden going to get rewired with a whole group of humanity that's been indoctrinated for the last 100 years? No. They could say this stuff all day. We need to deeply rewire our system into a system like Capital DR. I created this because it has nothing to do with the asset class. It has to do with understanding the cycles, because everything cycles. Capital DR is a system, and you can plug assets into it based on the printing of money, inflation, deflation, interest rates, learning where they're moving the economy. So you create cash flow. You get income, which is debt. The first thing you do is you create cash flow. You can do that through creating a side hustle, creating a business that makes money, MRR, monthly recurring revenue. You can go dividend stocks, which is one of my favorite, right? So I started doing, what everybody tells you to do, get 7 sources of income. I wouldn't recommend running 6 companies. It doesn't make any sense. It spreads out your zone of competency out too far. So I have 3 that I'm really focused on, right? And so we're building those ecosystems. I took my income from crypto last bull run and I invested in cash flowing businesses, scaled them, right? But then I was like, man, I want to at some point walk off into the sunset and enjoy my grandkids as they come and my family. And I want passive income. And I study Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. Nonstop. Ray Dalio, Kathy Woods. I want to be the greatest investor in my time. That's my goal. So every time I get paid, I put 10% into dividend stocks. Okay. So now I have income coming in, which is debt. I put it in 10%, first 10% into dividend stocks that pay me more cash flow. So now I have 2 forms of income, cash flow coming in, but the cash is trash. I just showed you, they're devaluing your currency. And the Fed thing just told you they're devaluing your currency. So I move my devalued currency into you see the little thing going up here, assets that appreciate over time. I don't care about the volatility. I care about the long-term trajectory. I learned how to look at companies. I do Warren Buffett style, right? Are they over 100 million? Is the asset going to be here? All these different things that you can look at. You can study all these things. You can study company, balance sheets. You can study the white papers, whatever it is. And so I make decisions based on what I believe is going to be here and what I believe is going to beat inflation. So as people lose purchasing power, I'm gaining purchasing power in my assets. So I take my income outside of debts and non-negotiables and money to live, and I move it into assets that appreciate, okay? When those assets appreciate, I pull some off the table and I leave some in because I want to make sure that I catch what's called a moonshot, right? I'm about 60% crypto, I'm 30% insurance, and 10% dividend stocks, just being transparent with you guys, okay? I take the appreciation off the table, I pull profits, and I stuff it into cash value life insurance. So if it goes where I think it's going to go over the next, couple months or 6 months, if it doesn't, then I just stay and I keep accumulating. But when it does, I put some into protection, max fund my policies. I put 10% of the appreciation into more dividends to create what? More cash flow. Then I use leverage responsibly. Okay, I explained to you guys I have 0 leverage on my crypto right now. It's super dangerous. Be very, very careful. 10-10, 2025 was a great example. We use cash value life insurance. So when the markets come collapsing down, remember it's a tier 2 economy. You own assets or you're paying the debt. We take debt on the positive side and then we move it into assets that appreciate over time. We only take out debt from to buy things that create cash flow to pay the debt back or appreciate over time to pay the debt back. On the insurance side, there's no liquidation risk. We use cash value life insurance as family banks. Okay, people are selling them as retirement policies. They're not retirement policies. They're insurance policies with permanent life insurance, a family banking component, and a leverage component, which is very